This is He Knows Everything, bringing you that heat, that far. We keeping a foot on the whoop. Eeks. We keeping a foot on the whoop. Eeks. Let's talk about it, man. You see, they don't want to talk to you guys about LeBron James, but I told you guys, this man is a dirty basketball player. This guy has been able to get away with murder. This guy has been able to get away with the fact that he's always done something precarious, from when his game against Gordon Hayward. When Gordon Hayward got angry at the fact that he wanted to fight LeBron James. LeBron James has always done these stiff arms, elbows, basically entanglement on the ground with these players. Or when you see fighters, and when I say fighters, I'm talking about basketball players become fighters against LeBron James, and they want to fight. Isaiah Stewart is a continuum of what LeBron James has been able to get away with. You guys have to understand, he has the Lagoon La Reffing in his La Favor. Let me say it again. He has the Lagoon La Reffing in his La Favor. So when you have something like that, they're going to overlook. Let's look at moments when LeBron James got into it with Rajon Rondo in the NBA playoffs. Rajon Rondo wanted to split his fucking wig. Let's look at moments when Lance Stevenson blew on LeBron James. There were moments where Lance Stevenson wanted to get it with LeBron. Moments with Draymond Green. Draymond Green called LeBron James a bitch because LeBron James elbowed this guy a lot. LeBron James used a lot of his body on these guys. Let's talk about moments where LeBron James stiff-armed Jason Terry. I can keep on going. Let's talk about moments where LeBron James basically bowled over J.J. Barrera. LeBron James has been a dirty basketball player throughout his whole NBA career. But they don't ever blow the whistle on him. This is the first time since we've never known when that they've actually given LeBron James an ejection. And you want to know why they gave him an ejection? Because even the NBA knows it was so obvious what he did, and they didn't want to get the blowback from it. So they had to give him a slap on the fucking wrist. Let me say it again. They didn't want to get the blowback from it, so they had to give him the slap on the wrist. But they know exactly what LeBron James did in those moments. They know exactly how LeBron James gets down. The NBA is very hypocritical, especially when it comes to a darling basketball player that they want to prop up. The NBA can be very wishy-washy. They can be very 50-50. They can be very shifty-shifty. They can be very double-minded. Because what did they say about a double-minded man? A double-minded man is unstable in all of his ways. They can be very much so like that. Because that's the natural evolving. That's the natural core of the NBA. To always find that player that they can abuse, that they can use, that they can succumb to, and that they can basically get on. And when they're able to do that to that NBA player, they're able to basically put that NBA player in a precarious situation. That's exactly what they did. That's exactly how they treated LeBron James. That's exactly how they put LeBron James in a precarious situation. You guys have to understand, when it's all said and done, that's exactly what happened in those moments. That's exactly what happened in those variations. And that's exactly what happened in those aspects. LeBron James is the identity, and he's the affiliation, he's the verification, and he's the certification of everything that embodies a dirty basketball player. When you think of dirty basketball, and you think of the element of what dirty is like, that is what LeBron James embodies. That is what he endues. That is what he succumbs to. That is everything that he is, the identity and the affiliation and the association and the abbreviation of. But the NBA now all of a sudden wants to hold him accountable after allowing this guy to get away with his la nonsense, his la dirty la playing for 18 fucking years. Isaiah Stewart, if he wasn't held by the coaching staff, if he wasn't held by all of these guys, Isaiah Stewart would have beaten the living shit out of LeBron James. Because you guys have to understand the way that LeBron James elbowed him. That elbow was deliberate. That elbow is a fighting type of elbow. When somebody gets elbowed like that, and the level of blood that this guy has basically protruded out of his body, especially in a COVID-filled time that we're in right now, You mean to tell me you wouldn't have wanted to fight LeBron James? You mean to tell me you wouldn't have wanted to beat the shit out of LeBron James? You mean to tell me you wouldn't have wanted to dominate LeBron James? If he would have done some shit like that to me, I would have been waiting in the alley at the end of the fucking game to beat the shit out of his ass. Let me say it again. If he would have done something like that to me, I would have waited at the end of the game in the motherfucking alley, put a sack over his fucking head and beat the living shit out of his ass. Because when it's all said and done, guys like that, they always get what's coming to them. You reap what you sow, motherfucker. See, the NBA think they slick. They should have been caught up to LeBron James. All of this stuff that you guys are seeing in this whole Isaiah Stewart situation, LeBron James been doing this shit for years in the fucking playoffs. He's been tripping basketball players. He's been holding basketball players. He's been pushing and muffing basketball players down offensively. When basketball players try to rip his ball, he pushes them, basically pushes them 5-7 feet. And the referee looks at it and calls the call on the defensive player for basically saying they're being too fucking aggressive, when in actuality, they are playing what's called defense. This guy right here is everything that's wrong with the game of basketball. Because when you look at the element of LeBron James, the rules don't apply to this motherfucker. When you look at the element of what LeBron James brings to the table, he gets to do whatever the fuck he wants to do, but everybody else has to play by a different fucking rule. Like I said before, and I will say this again because I said it earlier, Isaiah Stewart is better than me. Because if LeBron James did some shit like that to me, at the end of the game, I already know I'm fucking ejected. I would have found a way to leave the locker room. I would have said I need to go use the bathroom. I really need to go right now. I'd find my way over there in the Lakers locker room, or I'll find my way in a fucking alley somewhere, and I would put a sack over this motherfucker's head and beat the living shit out of his ass. That's the cold part in it. That's the unadulterated. That's the cutthroat tell of fashion. I keeps the foot on the whoop. I keeps the foot on the whoop. This is HeKnowsEverything. Check it out.